Okay, so we're going to start first of all here going over. You'll notice that I don't have a lot as far as the assignments put in here yet because we are using two new books that I haven't used before. And so we'll be, I know we're going to go through this one rather quickly to give us an overview of a lot of it's called user experience and user design, interactive design. And what's happened through the years is you've probably all seen a ton of websites, some that were easy to navigate and some that were not. And so that's what this book is kind of about. And we're going to look at a little short video clip that's pretty funny too about how the concepts of usability have been the same from old times to now. It's just how you code them or how you do it. Before there was the web, there were still usability issues. So if you haven't looked yet in here in Canvas, first thing to do was to do the welcome readme first, and and the announcements and the welcome announcements weren't as important since you're not online. I'll be able to go through some of this. But the syllabus is where both textbooks are, and we're going to look at that right now. And because if you can't, you need to really get your textbooks this week because there's a lot of stuff we're going to learn this semester, coding, and I also in the introduction, I think I had you to tell me what you had ever done with websites, right? I think I did. And so I haven't gone back and looked at those, so I'll probably ask a show of hands tonight since I haven't read everybody's. So I kind of get an idea, at least in this class, where everybody's at. Okay, so this is part of the multimedia digital design degree, but a lot of students that are even programmers take this class because front-end development is what we are actually going to be doing in here. If you ever look up jobs and you see something that says full stack developer, that's somebody that creates sites from the front all the way to the back end. But that's more programming, the back end. And used to graphic designers or digital designers, they would say, I don't want to know any coding. I just want to do the Photoshop stuff and the Illustrator stuff. And that's all I want to do. Well, very seldom do you get to do just that unless you work for yourself. And so most of the time now, designers need to know some HTML and CSS3, and even a little bit of JavaScript will help you in the job market. But sometimes you can get by without becoming a JavaScript programmer, okay? So we're going to get a little introduction of that, but we're going to do just some straight HTML and CSS coding. So how many in here have ever done that? Anybody? Nobody. Oh,
I've done a little bit of it.
A little bit of it. Okay. Did you use like a WYSIWYG editor, like say a visual editor, like say a Dreamweaver or a WordPress, or I know a lot of you probably used WordPress. And how many in here's done that? Anybody done that? And Sarah, right? And Bree. Okay. So those are more, there's like Weebly, Wix, Squarespace. There's a lot of them that are called template web design programs. And they're being used a lot in industry, but normally that's just to get a page or something up for a small, maybe a startup business, or maybe you want to build a site of your own. Sometimes we'll use something like those template builders, but we're going to actually code in here. When we're on the Mac, we'll use something called TextEdit, which comes with every Mac. If you're on a Windows computer at home or a laptop, the one that you will use is Notepad. You can't use Word because it puts a lot of little stuff in there, okay? So those are the text editors that we're going to start out using. But we also have Dreamweaver loaded on here, and we're not going to learn Dreamweaver per se, but we can use Dreamweaver to code in as a text editor, and it helps give you a lot of hints. Yes.
Should I buy the Adobe Suite then?
Well, Dreamweaver's not going to be required for any of the assignments if you want to hard code it using TextEdit. But if you're a graphic design major, multimedia digital design, you'll want to get the membership to that, because while you're in school, it's only $19.99 a month, and you'll use Photoshop. You know, you have a class in Photoshop and Illustrator, and so you'll have Dreamweaver that way if you go ahead and do that, because that's just a month by month, $19.99. I think you have to sign up for a year, but if you stop paying it, it cancels it. So, but it's after you get out of school, that's like a $49.99 a month.
They
For
raised the price to 70 something now.
Oh, have they, for professional?
Yeah.
But, and for students, so as long as you're in school, you get all that software. It's like over 15 pieces of software. Probably.
And then after school, it jumps up to 30, and then that's all you have to pay for the rest of the.
Oh, I thought he's just saying 70.
They raised the price depending on how much of it you buy to like 70 something. They might have redropped the price again, but last time I checked, they raised the price.
If you're out of school, yeah, and you're
If you're out of school, yeah.
They probably did. I thought it was $49.99, and he said 50.
The thing that I did is that I paid $20 for it for the first year, and then for the rest of my order or whatever, I only had to pay 30.
A month, or
Yeah.
well, that's probably while you're in.
School.
Oh.
Yeah, as soon as if you go and get the professional version where you're creating things where you're making money off of it, then they're going to charge you more. Because right now, when you're in school, that's how it is. So.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to keep the student.
Yeah, until you get a job, you can't use the student stuff once you get a job. It's right. If you're, but yes, student version right now is all you need, because it's full blown. It's exactly like the professional version. It's just that you can't do things that you make a profit off of when you're a student. And that's why they let you have it for $19.99. I know some of you probably do logos, things like that. But the thing is, they're considering, like corporations, they have to pay $79.99 to have it on their machines, or whatever he said it went up to. Okay, so in this class, the description has changed a little bit because we're doing some studying of UX UI in this book. And if you go out and you look up jobs in just UX UI designers, it's incredible what the amount of pay is, because currently there's billions of websites and there's only a few thousand of real UX designers, which is what this guy who read this book, which you'll see if you've read the first part of it, it says revisited. Well, he finally, his name's Steve Krug, and he finally redid it, but it still was in 2014 as a copyright on this one. So it's getting older too, but his first book, the concepts didn't change, just a lot of the images he had of websites were so outdated, which they're kind of getting that way again, you know. So anyway, what the course description, students will learn how to create pages using HTML layouts, CSS style sheets, and JavaScript. Students will learn UX UI design and complete usability testing on sites. We will learn to use both Bootstrap technology and responsive web design and mobile first design. So when I first started teaching HTML, it was HTML01, and it was like static pages. They all, and whenever somebody learned to do blinking text, you'd see that on every site, and it'd drive you crazy. And so now we are at HTML5 is really what version of HTML, and they probably won't change the number they're saying. Of course, they always change their mind about stuff. But that is what version of HTML that we'll be coding in is HTML5 and CSS3. But to use CSS3, does anybody know what CSS stands for?
I've heard it before, I can't remember.
Cascading style sheets, because it's like transparency papers. what you lay on top of your page, those are the styles, and one on top of the other will change the one below it. It's like what you see through, they lay on top of each other, and we'll see more about that. But version 3 is what we're in that, which allows for a lot of things that we used to could not do in straight HTML. But we have to learn the basics first before we can get into any of the fancy stuff. But the bootstrap is what that's talking about, is some coding that allows your screen to resize depending upon the device you're on. That's what's made website coding so much more complicated, because when I started with HTML1, a screen was 640 by 480 pixels. So that was all you didn't have any options. And so now we've got monitors that are, you know, huge down to our phone size. And so we had to, they had to come up with coding that would automatically detect what size of device it's on, and then it will change, the code will cause it to change to that size. But what is the device that has the highest, what do you think is the device that is most websites are opened up on the most? Cell phones. Exactly. And you know how difficult that makes us? That's why now, even when you go to a desktop and you see websites, sorry, we had that. What's your name? Young. Okay. All right. So I'll go back and put you in there. Let me do that. Oops, I'm in. Yeah, that's supposed to be right. What happened? It must have combined my. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. So what we're doing, what the kind of coding that we have to do is called, if you do the straight coding and you don't like let something like a Dreamweaver do it for you, the type of technology that allows the screen to change size was bootstrap technology, but it's also called responsive web design, because it responds, the web site responds to the size of the device. Okay, so those are some of the terminology that we're going to learn. And the reason it says mobile first design is because what we just said, mobile, the highest percentage of websites are being viewed on mobile devices. So that's why when we code a website, we need to really code it for a mobile device, and then it will expand. But you know how websites used to, you would click to go to different pages, and you still can do that, but you see a lot more of scrolling down on even on, if you're on a desktop. Why do you think that is? Like websites have a lot, like even if you go to, say, the Rose State site, go there. So if I go here, I scroll, I have this slide here, but also I scroll down to see a lot of it. We're used to, when I first started coding sites, we were taught, put only what you know, people are not going to scroll on their desktop when they're looking at a website, that they're going to just see what's on the screen. So the most important things you need to put there. But why are all of these doing this now? That's the way to design websites, right? You scroll. Why do you think that is? What do you do on here? You scroll. So instead of having to, you know, you can drop down a menu and you can go to another page, right, on here, but they want you to get as much as you can on that front page, because you're going to be scrolling. That's the way that sites are designed now. Okay, so these are some of the course objectives, and I I didn't mean to make one of them great big and one of them tiny, but I didn't have time to resize this one. So when I realized that you had to purchase it. So here are the ISBNs for this book if you don't want to go at the bookstore, because that's usually the most expensive one. But I don't mind if you just have a digital copy. It's totally up to you whether you want the hard copy or not. You can get it on Amazon. There's I'll show you some different places. One place that I showed is his website. You can go to stevekrug.com and you'll notice he has more than one book. He has another one called Rocket Surgery Made Easy. That's when you actually are teaching a class on strictly usability testing, and we're not doing that. We're doing more of a design, and we're not even going to do all of this book, although you'll want to use it if you're going to do anything like that. Okay, so if you go up here, and if you haven't purchased the book yet and you don't want to go to the bookstore and you click on Don't Make Me Think, you'll notice that here he has several different places that you can purchase the book. Amazon.com. If you go to Pearson, I think it's the one that gives you book plus the ebook bundle. Your price $48.60. I think that's still less than the bookstore. Here's the ebook watermarked. You can get just it for $28.80, and it includes EPUB, mobile, and PDF. Okay, so that's your option. So if you just type in the author's name.com, it'll come up with this. Amazon may offer the same exact thing. I can't remember, but either one works. Okay. And then for this book, Learning Web Design, it is actually the same thing. You can get it at the bookstore, or you can go to Amazon. Has it? Has anyone bought it off of Amazon?
Yeah, you can rent it on Amazon.
Okay, you can rent it. Okay. Now, this guy right here that comments, Jeffrey Zellman, about this Don't Make Me Think, he tells you what this book is about. But Jeffrey Zellman is I went to a live web design conference in about 2005 that he was the main speaker, and he is boring as can be. But he is the guy that is responsible. He talks in a real monotone. And he's the guy that's responsible for what's called the World Wide Web Consortium, which if you've ever seen W3C, out on the web, he's the one that conducts a committee that determines what are the rules for the web, and they can't enforce any of them. But what happened back when we were first coding in HTML01 is every browser interpreted HTML differently, so you could code your site and it may show up one way on Microsoft's what's it called now? It's called Edge now, but I can't remember what it used to. Internet Explorer. Yeah, that's a terrible browser. Then there's Chrome, there's Mozilla Firefox, there's Safari. There's a lot of different browsers. Well, back then, Netscape Navigator was one of the first ones. That's what we had across campus here when I was coding in HTML01. And certain code would show up one way in one browser and be somewhere else on the screen in another browser. So the browser, if you're not understanding what that term is, the browser is what makes it visible and not in code. So if I wanted to look at, like, I think she has you do this in the first chapter, but say I wanted to see this guy's website, I could right click. Oops, this is not a, let me go back to what his is. His must be in something other than, okay, let's go here to the main site. Inspect, it should show me view source, and it's not. Okay, this is the actual code of this web page in HTML, and it's a pretty complicated page. So let me see if I can find one. She had one called, I think it was called Gen Design. I'll have to look at it here in a minute. .com. Maybe that's it. I don't know. No, website. Yeah, that may be hers. I don't know. Let me see what it looks like. These are really more complicated ones, like where it says view page source. That's how you see the HTML. So the browser shows you what this code does, what it will display. So on any page you're on, you can actually right click and say view page source, and it'll show you the code. And that's how a lot of people really learned HTML, is they'd look at websites they liked and they'd go in and start looking at the code and take parts of it. Because there's really nothing on the web that you can't copy and paste. That's just that. Now, unless you do it in flat, in animation and some of that, you can't do it then. Okay, so this book is the one that we're going to be doing exercises in and really learning the HTML, CSS, JavaScript is in here. So technology expectations. It is expected that online students have access to reliable internet service, and you all are half online because you're only required to be here once a week. But that doesn't mean that's all the work you do. You'll do the same thing as my online. There's an online section, so they'll see this lecture, but then this is only half of the amount of time that even we spend in class. So to really do this class, you need to at least, besides this class period, which is only an hour and 15 minutes, you need to figure about 3 hours a week at least, because you're going to be coding and you're going to be reading. Then in the beginning, it's a lot of reading, just this first week. Then next week, we're going to start coding a page, okay, in HTML. So you're going to have to, we're not going to spend as much time discussing things. So that's why I'm going to post discussions in which I started one and I didn't realize it partially posted. Somebody said, well, what did you mean here? Well, I wasn't finished. So each chapter that we read in here, we're going to have some discussions, and I'll have a few quiz questions just to see if you're understanding this. But then the second half of the semester, when you're working on sites, that's when you'll apply what you're learning in here. Okay, you're learning the terminology and some key concepts this first half of the semester. Okay, so but you'll have to do some troubleshooting when you're writing your code and you want it to display a certain way in the browser and it doesn't, and you have to say, oh, why did that not do it? And you find where you left a bracket off or you left a semicolon off. How many in here, is there anybody has not had fundamentals of programming logic yet? Anybody has not? Shai, you haven't, right? And Young, you haven't. Oh, Ashton, Sarah. Oh, you haven't either, Tish. Okay. So it's helpful. It's not a requirement. And if you're not enrolled in it right now, it helps you a little bit in learning. It'll especially help you with JavaScript. But with HTML, it's not as big a deal as it is. If you're really going to be a web designer, though, you have to know some programming concepts. So that's why we take it. Lainey loved it, right? I don't think, let's see, Zachary and Bree were in there last semester in my class. So
I really got by the hair of my teeth.
Hair of your teeth. The hair of my chinny chin chin or something like that. That was an old, I can't remember. Skin of my teeth. Skin of my teeth. There you go. All right. So the attendance policy. Okay. this lecture class, everybody that's attended today, then you have satisfied the attendance policy, so you won't be administratively withdrawn. So if, say, 3 or 4 weeks down the road, you decide, oh, I'm not going to do this, I can't do it, it's too hard, whatever, and you don't come talk to me, and you just quit coming, that doesn't drop you out of this class. Okay, just remember that. If you just quit doing the work and you think, you know, that drops you, it does not. If you quit doing the work, it gives you a big F. Okay, so if you need to drop, you don't have to decide that. Now that you're in the class, you don't have to decide that until like 2 weeks before the end of the semester. Okay, something like that. I forget when the drop date is exactly, but I'll let you know. But always, always, I tell students, before you withdraw from my class, come and talk to me, because we can see what we can do. But the students that are online, they'll be watching this lecture too. I think they have to do the intro thing for me to know that they've attended. Okay, and what I tell you about communicating, the best way to communicate with me is through email. And the email in Canvas is fine. It comes directly to my rose.edu. I see all of those on my phone too immediately. So that's the best way to get in touch with me. My office hours are posted in that instructor office where it says that, or they should be. Not, I'll make sure they are. My office is downstairs, BS 114. I plan on being there most hours, but this is my last semester forever and ever. So I may skip out some. You guys have to be sure to email me or text me before. I say forever and ever. I'll probably teach part-time, maybe. Depends. Let's see. Okay. Mental. Okay. And I think people who have had some ADA accommodations have turned in their forms, but if anybody has not and they need to, be sure and do that. All right. Now, there's a thing here on academic integrity, and you all, that I think everybody almost, but maybe a couple people have been in my classes before. And and the only time that I don't let you work together is when it's a test. But when we're doing assignments or you're working on assignment outside of class or a page and somebody can help you or are willing to help you, or you're willing to work together, I have no problem with that. But whenever we take tests, those are the only times that you have to do it on your own. So I know what you have picked up. Okay, so any questions about the syllabus so far? All right, so, oops, I don't know why I did that. Now we're going to go and look at this actual book I have opened up, this Krug book. So if you don't have it, you can just watch up here. And what I want to show you in this book, oh, I bet that's going to take me. Yep, that's right. Oh, no. Didn't want it to log me all the way out. I was trying to go to the front of the book. Come on. There we go. Okay. So there's only, I think it's 4 chapters that or 4, 5 that we're going to do in here that you're going to be required to do, but all of it is good. So under here is well, here's the contents first, and I'll show you. The thing that I want you to do for sure is read this introduction, but I'm going to go over some of that today. And then you're going to do chapters. Am I in the table of contents? No. Okay, you're going to do chapters, introduction. I don't know why that says 2. It shouldn't be 2. Okay, here's the introduction. And then we're going to do 1, that should be chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. And currently, I don't plan on doing 5. We're going to do skip to 7. And then when we get into really at the end, when we do some really setting up our websites, there's a chapter on navigation and structure that we may look at in here. And like it says at the very beginning, this is a really thin book and a lot of pictures. And so all of it that you read just helps. You know, it's a common sense approach to web and mobile usability. So what I want to look at tonight is a little bit of the introduction, and then next time I want you to have, I'm going to give you, there will be a discussion out there from the introduction. I think it's, let's see, let me just go here. You can see where he says he wrote the first version of this in the year 2000. By 2002, I began to get a few emails a year from readers asking if I'd thought about updating it. So finally in 2006, he updated it again. And then he said, writing is really hard for me, and I'm always happy to have a reason not to do it. Give me a good old root canal over writing any day. So why now? Finally, a new edition. 2 reasons. Let's face it, it's old. These were what the pages looked like that he was had in his book. So he said, hey, it's old. I need to do some updating. But you'll see some websites in that style. A lot of them still like that. And he was saying it's still selling steadily. Why do I want to do this? People keep telling me that they got their job thanks in part to reading it, or that it influenced their choice of a career. And he talks about the different careers in here, and also in that learning web design. The first part of it called Getting Started that we're going to look at, it defines all the different kinds of jobs that you can get. The landscape has changed in 3 ways. Technology got its hands on some steroids. So in 2000, we were using the web on relatively large screens with a mouse or touchpad and a keyboard. And we were sitting down, often at a desk when we did. Now we use tiny computers that we carry around with us all the time. And so that was why he realized he needed to update it. And so the web itself kept improving. Even when I'm using desktop computers to do all the things I've always done on the web, buying stuff, making travel plans, connecting with friends, reading the news, and settling bar bets. The sites I use tend to be much more powerful and useful than their predecessors. So usability went mainstream. So in 2000, not that many people understood the importance of usability. Now, thanks in large part to Steve Jobs and Jonathan Ive, almost everyone understands that it's important. Because, you know, that's the thing that made Apple so different from Windows, is because it's so much easier and intuitive to use. How many of you started on a Windows computer? Okay. And so how many still believe it's easier than an Apple? Because what you learned first stuck with you, right? But that wasn't true with me, because from the 70s, I was DOS, old DOS, command line, Windows. And in 2006, my son got the first Mac, and I said, that's a toy. I don't want nothing to do with it. Within 2 weeks, he had to be converted. And all I can tell you is it's so much more intuitive. And but if you have somebody show you what each thing is, you just, and for graphics people, you have to fall in love with the Mac. I'm sorry if you're graphics. Because when you get a job, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to work in a cross-platform environment. And so I promise that it gets easier. And that's why I would like, while you're in the classroom, to use this Mac in front of you. Challenge yourself. And then, but you can still do your work on Windows if you want. But I want you while you're in this classroom to see what it's like. All right. So don't get me wrong. This edition has new examples. Okay. So here is what I want to show you. Did anybody watch this on YouTube ever, called the Medieval Help Desk? Medieval Help Desk? No? Okay. You have? Okay. So we're going to watch this. It's only about, we're going to watch the 2-minute version instead of the, oh, I forgot to go to YouTube first. Oh, well. Okay. So this is the 2-minute version. Let me see if I can get it loud enough for y'all to hear it though on my, oh yeah, it is. Can y'all read it down there? Because here, let me see if I can find, there's another one that's in English. Hold on. Let me find the one that's, there's another one. Why is it not showing me all of them? It did in my office. Okay, here we go. Help desk. This one's a 5-minute one though. Yeah, let me see. That one's 5. Here's the one. I think this one still just has English subtitles, but maybe it'll. Let's see what this, if this is it. Oh no, that's even worse, huh? Okay, we sure can't get that one, huh? Okay, reading it's fine. Okay, larger and funnier. Okay, here we go. You see what's going on? He can't figure out the book, right?
Ja, altså så langt kom jeg også. Ok, men så stoppet opp, og så var jeg redd for at noe av teksten skulle forsvinne, så jeg turte å gå videre. Ja, ok, nei, men du skjønner, inni her, så ligger det kanskje flere 100 sider med lagret tekst. Så når du kommer videre, så tar du tak i et ark, på måten her, og så blar du over, og neste side sånn, da fortsetter teksten der. Jeg blar, altså. Du blar, ja. Men tilbake da. Ja, da bare blar du tilbake en bak der. Så er du tilbake til den teksten du hadde sagt. Ok, så den slutter der, og så fortsetter den der, ja. Ok, men når jeg skal avslutte, hva er det man gjør da? Ja, bare slår du sammen permene, ja, så er måten der. Så da ligger alt lagret inni der. Altså, jeg risikerer ikke å miste noe av teksten her. Alt ligger lagret inni her nå, ja. Vi tilfeller å sette fyr på, eller det er kanskje litt sannsynlig. Ja, ok. For det er noe med det at vi kan holde på med skriftruller, ja. Så tar det litt tid å konvertere til å bla i en bøk. Ja, det er jo det. Ja, men jeg vil før det går. Jeg må gå igjen en gang til. Altså, jeg åpner, ja. Sånn, og så, hva du kaller det? Blar, jeg blar, blar frem og tilbake, og når jeg er ferdig, så bare lukker jeg den. Flott, det er kjempefint. Ja, men du, ikke sant? Nå er det sånn igjen, nå får jeg ikke åpnet den.
Så
greit den ikke inn til der, åpnet fra den siden der, sånn, der nå. Ja vel, har du ikke manualen, eller? Manualen? Jeg skal følge med som manualen som brukerveiledning. Det sitter den der. Ja, den ja. Ja, men ikke sant, det er det samme problemet. Får ikke opp.
So, you see, everything is new. That's what he's trying to tell you, is that, okay, he used to use a scroll, so he didn't know how to open a book, right? So he had to be shown how to open a book and how to turn a page. And that's what happened on the web. You know, people that had never seen websites before. I mean, you've grown up with websites, so you know what means, like if you have a hamburger menu, you know, if you click on it, it's going to drop down, you're going to see other menus. But can you imagine somebody that's never seen that before? They don't know how. They don't know how to. So he had never seen a book before. Didn't know how to open a book. This is a Norwegian thing, but it was in medieval times. They had scrolls all before that, so they didn't know about pages. And so that's what we have to keep in mind. But
They had tablets.
yeah, they had.
Use a scroll.
Yeah. So that's what we have to keep in mind when we're creating a website, is we want to create it in such a way that it's easy for people to use it. And that's what this book, Don't Make Me Have to Think, is about. You should be able to go to a website and not even have to think about how to get to the information that you're looking for. Okay? So that's what he's going to teach us in this book. Let me get to where that was at again, so we can look at the next part of it. Okay, so there was a guy named Jacob Nielsen who aptly put it, the human brain's capacity doesn't change from 1 year to the next. So the insights from studying human behavior have a very long shelf life. What was difficult for users 20 years ago continues to be difficult today. Now, I hope you enjoyed this new edition, and don't forget to wave in a few years when you pass me in your flying car. So what he's saying is the actual concepts never changes. That's what Jacob Nielsen is saying. The capacity of our brain doesn't change. It's just what we have to put in there. You already were born knowing how to open the book, I guess. You know, we didn't have to, well, people we were around already knew. So now it's still things that we're having to learn, and we want it to be easy what we do. So the world has changed, and the basic principles are the same even if the landscape has changed, because usability is about people and how they understand and use things. It's not about technology. So we use technology to learn things, but we think we're having to learn all this technology, but really what we're doing is it's how you understand to use things. And so now the same things that used to just be a book are now given to us through technology, right? All right. So that's what this book, the introduction, read me first, and there's a discussion that I'm going to have you post to. So look for it in discussions. It's not out there yet. It will be by tomorrow. And what I didn't go over in Canvas that is in there is that the organization of our course, and within the course, we'll meet once a week at 5:40, and so there will be, these videos will be uploaded to that YouTube link like I do in all my classes. And a week from today, it will be Tuesday, whenever we meet again, all assignments are always going to be due on the Monday before at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so that you know that whatever we do on Tuesday, if you miss class, you can look at the video, but you don't get to ask questions like you do when you come to class, okay? So that's the advantage to the hybrid class, is that if you're having trouble with something, you can do that. And I will post all of these, so if you forget something that was assigned. But on the home page is where you'll always be able to get to your assignments. But this has just some added things. There's if we do want to have a Zoom, if you want to have it can't come up here and I'm in my office, then you can schedule me to turn on my Zoom. But my office hours, let me go here. They should, let me see if they're posted here. Supposed to be, but I might not. Yeah, there they are. So here's my office hours. And then also here's the link to Zoom if you want to ask me a question and I'm in my office, okay? Otherwise, you have to email me. But there will be weeks, I'll put down here. These are this is the zip file that goes with the green book. Let me get it open too. I had it open. So we can look at it for a minute because you're going to have an assignment in it also. Because I want to be ready to do some coding next time. Let's see, where's that at? Okay, so in this book, it has, let me go to the table of contents. Here it is. Okay, there are 3 parts. Let me see, marking up text. Let me see if 3 is the CSS. See, there's 2 things and 4 is the JavaScript. So there's 4 parts. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Okay, so we may not get to this part. I'm not sure. But today, so for next week, when you get your book, you need to read all of this and do the test yourself and how the web works. This is a lot of reading, but it's just to help you to understand what's going on. I'll hit the high points of it, but you need to know these key terms and some of the things that she goes over in here about the browsers that I was talking about, parts of a URL. But then when we get to the anatomy of the web page, this is where we're going to really start. And next time, you can start this if you want to, but we're going to go to chapter 4 next time and start coding a page in HTML. Where's that? But I will be doing there will be a quiz over those other chapters. I just don't want to spend a lot of class time on that because I'd rather be able to do work with you hands-on. So here, HTML for structure is part 2, and that's where chapter 4 starts, creating a simple page HTML overview, a web page step-by-step. We're going to actually use text edit in here, and it shows you step-by-step how to launch a text editor if you're in Windows or if you're on a Mac, okay? And we're going to create our first web page then, all right? So you don't have to do it outside of class this first time, but you need to have read up to there so that you know what's going on. All right, so you have to do the introduction in here and a discussion, and then you'll do the reading here, and I will post this underneath here. There will be a week 1 assignment, okay, that you can get to from the home page. All right. And it'll be due by next Tuesday night. And if you haven't done the intro discussion, that's due by next Sunday night. Everything else is due by, I said Tuesday, I mean Monday night. But I had to do AWs, so I said Sunday night AWs are due on Monday. Is why I did that. But let me find that discussion again. Isn't it called your intro video right here? So this is the discussion that's due. And I need to know this. I know I asked questions, but I won't remember who all said what. So answer those questions in your intro video, okay? All right. So anybody have any questions? I'm going to let you out early tonight. Won't happen again. Probably will. Especially in the springtime when it gets warm. You know, we won't want to stay in here at night, right? For the time changes, that's what's really hard after spring break. Come back to class. Okay. Oh, it does. I like it though. Then it's light a lot later, right? Okay, anybody have any questions? If not, you're free to go.